How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you again.
Welcome back to Speyside. If you're
Thank
doing
you.
well.
Can I get the regular?
Of course you can, no problem at all.
This episode of The Last Drop is all about whiskey.
You know, sometimes we say, well, your malt whiskey, this is like an aria. It's a single performance. Whereas your blend, this is the full orchestra. We've got a lot going on in there.
Wonderfully complex dram. So yeah, it's a special smoky monster.
Each stage has its own traditions, its own processes. We've had the same recipe for over 100 years now. There are traditions that are carried throughout every process.
Essentially, it's personal preference. See now, put the dram in your hand. It's your whiskey, it's your choice, it's what you want to do with it.
영국을 이루는 구성국 중 하나인 스코틀랜드. 이곳은 위스키의 고향이라 불릴 만큼 위스키 제조 역사가 깊은데요. 스코틀랜드에만 100여 개가 넘는 증류소가 있고 그 저장고에선 약 2천만 통의 위스키가 숙성되고 있다니. 위스키 여행을 하기에 더할 나위 없이 완벽한 곳이죠.
My name is Dustin Wessa. I've been in Korea for 16 years. And I'm a traditional Korean alcohol sommelier. So I've been studying Sur now for 10 years. And so the idea that we're starting on a journey right now, sip together, talk about this, and then come back and share the other cultures with the rest of us is just like, it's the dream. I'm living the dream. I'm so excited for this.
더스틴의 새로운 여정은 전 세계에서 가장 유명한 위스키 중 하나인 바로 이 위스키로 시작합니다. 200여 개 국가에서 1초에 5병씩 매년 1억 병 이상 판매되며 전 세계 애주가들의 사랑을 받고 있는 위스키죠.
Hi, I'm Dustin.
Hi, Dustin. Kishan, nice to meet you.
Kishan, thank you so much for your time. This place is absolutely beautiful.
It really is stunning. 4 years in the making. It's a £185 million investment for whiskey tourism here in Scotland. So it's definitely a beautiful, beautiful investment for whiskey here. We bring the 200-year story of Johnny Walker to life in a new, innovative, and immersive way.
Say something that's a little embarrassing. Honestly, I thought Johnny Walker was American.
That's a very common misconception.
Okay.
So a lot of people seem to think that he is an American, but actually we're in the home of Johnny Walker here in Scotland. He started off way back in the 1800s as sort of a tea blender, if you will.
He was blending teas before he was doing whiskey.
And then he got into the whiskey trade and would sort of individually blend bottles of whiskey for his guests each and every time. And then thus he became known as sort of a whiskey blender.
사실 전통적으로 유명한 위스키들은 대부분 블렌디드 위스키입니다. 보리로 만든 싱글 몰트 위스키와 옥수수나 밀로 만든 그레인 위스키를 혼합해서 만드는데요. 즉, 한 증류소에서 만든 위스키가 아닌 거죠.
Johnny Walker was very intuitive in terms of he would sort of like the chefs blend together different ingredients to try and get something that was smooth and delicious each and every time. And that's really what we're known for. And a lot of people don't like to sort of drink Johnny Walker because it's a blended sort of whiskey, but it's absolutely phenomenal.
We think of sometimes when blend is like opened up the fridge and you found what's left and you just kind of made something happen. There's another casserole, but that's not the case.
Exactly, and what we found is that he wanted to blend whiskeys to individual tastes as well too. So when his guests would come in, he would blend bottles of whiskey directly for their taste each and every time.
Wow.
And then he essentially got it correct in terms of blending a smooth and delicious whiskey each and every time for his customers.
Wow, and that's alchemy back in the 1800s.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
마치 연금술처럼 블렌디드 위스키는 싱글 몰트 위스키에 다른 위스키를 섞어 만드는데요. 이때 위스키의 베이스가 되며 맛의 핵심을 담당하는 싱글 몰트 위스키를 키몰트라고 부릅니다. 그렇다면 전 세계에서 가장 많이 팔리는 이 위스키의 키몰트는 어디에서 만들어질까요? 스코틀랜드 북부에 자리한 스페이사이드는 면적은 작지만 스코틀랜드 증류소의 절반가량이 모여 있어 스카치 위스키의 중심지로 손꼽히는 곳입니다.
We've just gotten to Speyside. This is an ancient region of Scotland. It's quite small, but you'd be surprised to know that over 50% of all Scotch whiskies are distilled along this river. And I can't wait to get a taste. I think it's time to go to a distillery.
스카치 위스키의 중심인 스페이사이드의 증류소들은 스페이강을 따라 밀집해 있는데요. 맑은 물을 자랑하는 스페이강의 이름은 놀랍게도 침을 뱉다는 뜻의 스핏에서 유래됐다고 합니다. 강을 자세히 보면 물이 맑은데도 마치 침을 뱉어놓은 것처럼 작은 거품이 있어서 이런 이름이 붙은 거죠. 비옥한 토양부터 풍부한 일조량, 거기에 맑은 물까지. 스페이사이드는 싱글 몰트 위스키 생산에 필요한 조건을 두루 갖췄는데요. 이곳에서 생산된 싱글 몰트 위스키들은 주로 과일향과 꽃향이 풍부해 블렌디드 위스키의 키몰트로 많이 사용되고 있습니다.
So we just came from Princess Street. Johnny Walker is known for being a world-renowned famous blended whiskey. Every blended whiskey has something we call a key malt, the backbone, the foundation of what makes that blend so perfect. Right behind me, we have a distillery from 1824, and these buildings look ancient. This is Cardew, the distillery that produces the key malt and the backbone as to what makes Johnny Walker so perfect. Let's go take a look.
스페이강 북부 강둑에 자리한 이 증류소는 약 200년 전 한 부부가 설립했는데요. 70여 년 동안 가문이 운영하다 이곳 위스키에 감동받은 알렉산더 워커가 증류소를 매입하면서 전 세계에서 가장 많이 팔리는 블렌디드 위스키의 키몰트 증류소로 그 이름을 널리 알리게 됐습니다.
My name's Dustin.
My name's Katrina.
Katrina, thank you for having me.
Welcome. Welcome to Cardew, Dustin.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe Johnny Walker and the collaboration, is there a reason they chose Speyside, this specific region?
Oh, very much so. Speyside was producing the best malts. They knew it. And this is why they went on these journeys throughout Scotland in order to provide that perfect link, you know, that perfect brand of malt whiskey. But at Cardew, they found exactly what they were looking for. We call it the heart of Johnny Walker.
The heart. And so in other blends, sometimes it's called the key malt or something like.
Yes, sometimes.
It's the foundation, the backbone, the strength there that ties all those nuances together.
Yes, and I think that's right. It's almost alchemy, isn't it? Making a blended whiskey, you need a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Of course, those secrets are held by our whiskey makers, our master blenders, but we do know and we do say Cardew is at the heart of Johnny Walker.
Okay, excellent. Do you think maybe we could try a taste of one of these?
Absolutely.
싱글 몰트 위스키와 이를 기반으로 만든 블렌디드 위스키. 자, 이 둘의 맛은 어떻게 다를까요?
It's a beautiful colour, isn't it?
It's very amber.
Gold, very amber and gold. Slajeva.
Slajeva.
Indeed.
In Korean we say 짠.
Ah, jan,
짠.
jan.
짠. It's interesting. There's the finish is almost creamy. There's a nice pointy, like grassy note that pops up there. Very tight minerals.
So this is Cardew malt. This is what we make here at the distillery.
Much more fruity,
Isn't it?
and the fruit is much more complex, I would say.
Yeah, there's a lot more layers there, isn't there?
There's something almost jammy about it.
You know, sometimes we say, well, your malt whiskey, this is like an aria. It's a single performance. Whereas your blend, this is the full orchestra. We've got a lot going on in there. And the two are very, very different. Not one better than the other.
Right.
They're just different.
Me, myself, I think I preferred the Cardew just because it was a much more honest expression. The Cardew was just so beautifully balanced in its simplicity, and it was so easy to enjoy and keep sipping through. Whereas the Johnnie Walker Black was a beautiful sip. You could feel the layers as it moved through its own shape. Whereas the Cartouche is kind of this one experience.
스코틀랜드 위스키의 중심지답게 스페이사이더에는 위스키와 관련된 명소들이 많은데요. 유명한 위스키의 이름이 유래된 발베니성은 물론 위스키 애호가들이라면 절대 지나칠 수 없는 위스키 바도 있습니다.
Now, sir, something different tonight. So this is our haggis and black pudding.
This is it. This is haggis.
Yes, it's haggis. You've
I've
never tried it?
No.
Haggis is locally caught in Scotland.
You catch the sheep.
We catch the haggis. We go out haggis beating. Every year, we shoot them at a certain time of year for you to enjoy on your plate.
Beautiful. Oh, we gotta get an ASMR on this. Did you hear that? Wow. The sound is just amazing. It's crispy on the outside. I've been waiting for this. This is basically the Scottish version of sundae. Wow, that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. This is a traditional patty, Scottish patty. It's called black pudding. So basically this is sanji, it's blood. And this one down here, this is the haggis. And the haggis itself is almost like, it's like chapsal sundae or something. It's extremely well balanced, and the apricots give it a nice fruity feel. So with a whiskey, I'm gonna guess, sherry is known for imparting fruit flavors. So we have our 100% sherry. Sip of that. Woo, that's hot. Another bite of this. Oh my God, this is art. It's amazing the balance that you can find in these two. They both work together, they marry. This is more of a dance. So when I went to the pubs, just kind of after hours working with the rest of the locals, and everyone drinks whiskey. I was surprised. You know, and, I think in other areas, it's like you go to a pub, you get a beer, right? But here in Speyside, everyone's drinking whiskey. And you talk about Islay whiskies, and there's this kind of like, Islay, the peaty stuff? And then you go to Islay, and you go to the pubs down there, and you talk about going to Speyside, and they're like, oh, the non-peated whiskeys? But where's the flavor? And there's these regional kind of philosophies and this pride about their local craft.
싱글 몰트 위스키의 성지는 한 곳이 아닙니다. 이곳 스페이사이드와 함께 한치의 양보도 없는 라이벌 관계를 구축한 아일라 섬이 있는데요. 아일라 위스키는 소독약을 떠올리게 하는 톡 쏘는 강한 피트향으로 유명합니다. 그러니까 위스키계의 홍어라고 할까요? 평범한 위스키 맛에 물린 이들에게 싱글 몰트 위스키의 종착지로 극찬받는 곳이기도 하죠. 스코틀랜드 서해안의 작은 섬 아일라. 이곳에는 1810년대에 생긴 증류소부터 2019년에 생긴 신생 증류소까지 총 9개의 증류소가 있습니다. 주민은 3,000명 남짓이지만 최고 품질의 싱글 몰트 위스키를 생산하는 증류소들이 모여 있어 위스키의 성지라 불리는 곳이죠.
I was walking around the island, and I noticed that the church, it's a very interesting shape. It's completely round. I've never seen anything like it. So I asked the locals, why is the church round? And they told me, so that the devil has no places to hide in the corners. And on Islay, the legend has it that when the devil couldn't hide in the corners, he found his way to hide in a whiskey cask.
위스키 성지에 어울리는 이야기네요. 싱글 몰트 위스키는 물, 바람, 토양의 질에 따라 맛이 달라져 생산지마다 독특한 개성을 가지는데요. 그중 가장 개성 강한 싱글 몰트 위스키를 만드는 곳이 바로 이곳 아일라 섬이죠. 톡 쏘는 피트향으로 유명한 아일라 위스키. 자, 그중 하나를 만나러 가볼까요?
Hi, I'm Dustin.
Dustin, welcome. I'm
Thank
Barry.
you. So one of the things I was curious as we were rolling in, I mean, the island is so unique, and as we go around it, as soon as I stepped off the plane, it smelled like smoked seaweed. It smelled peaty. I thought there was a fire burning around the corner somewhere.
I don't know about the fire, but the airport is pretty much built on a peat bog. You're working with the peat, you're working with it all the time. So, and growing up as a kid on Isla, you're used to peat.
You're right, you're walking on it.
You would walk around the streets in the winter, and every fire would be burning peat. And when it's cold, the peat smoke would come down into the streets. So you grow up playing in the streets, smelling smoke and peat smoke all the time.
Like, is that where it came from, the peat being burnt to smoke the malt? Is that because it was the most abundant fuel source?
Yeah, I mean, probably every house at one point would have used peat smoke as a heat source.
Okay.
It was originally being a heat source here until the flavour of it was, okay, this works.
Let's put this in the whiskey. But I did hear that Prince Charles, he kind of got stuck here for a bit because of this beautiful wind.
So he's been here on a number of visits. The first time he landed his own plane, and it wasn't actually the wind that got him stuck here. It was because he actually went off the end of the runway. The plane landed in a river.
And this is where the royalty came, and they started giving the stamps, and that's where the buzz.
Yeah, so the royal warrant was awarded in 1994.
If you had to choose one that had the largest influence on the expression or the character of what makes Laphroaig, what would you choose?
And it's all these small little traditions passed down that make up. I wouldn't say there's one that's, but the malt floors play a huge part, yeah. I started in the malt floors up above us, working in there.
You were a malt man?
I was a malt boy, they called me.
A malt boy?
I was so much younger than the rest of the team.
Is there like even like, do they call it wee malty or something like that?
No, I was quite happy clinging on to malt boy. I'm still trying to cling on to the name.
위스키를 만들려면 가장 먼저 보리싹을 틔워야 하는데요. 플로우 몰팅은 물에 불린 보리를 바닥에 펴놓고 손수 뒤집어가며 싹을 틔우는 전통 방식입니다. 보리를 바닥에 넓게 뿌려두고 일정한 시간마다 삽으로 뒤집어줘야 해서 이게 여간 힘든 작업이 아니죠.
All right, so I heard there's a term, monkey shoulder.
Yes.
Is that a real thing? It's like...
Yeah, it's before the term repetitive strain injury came along.
It was from malt men and malt women on the floor.
When they were working the floors and they were turning, they were always predominantly right or left-handed, so they would get repetitive strain in the most dominant shoulder.
And let's be honest, it's 2022, there are modern ways to do this. You send it off, you do a little thing, they press a button, it does its own thing, they send it back, and why? Why would you...
It wouldn't be Laphroaig then. So again, as we talked about earlier, the traditions, passing them down, it's what makes Laphroaig.
I'm just drinking for free all day, so maybe I get a little monkey shoulder on?
Go for it.
Huh?
Just have to go all the way to the bottom, then all the way back up again.
And how many times do I have to do this in a shift?
Oh, you don't stop. That's your shift.
That was a... So I'm like, what? 3 meters? 3 meters in?
So usually they would, in the back in time, there would be 14, maybe 15 operators, all walking down.
At the same time?
Turning together, yeah.
Is this how it's done? Am I doing an all right job?
This is how it would be done.
You can take the piss out of me if you'd like. I'm ready for it.
No, but what would have to happen is when you have to move down again.
Yeah.
So you have to fill in the trench you've made.
Gotcha.
So...
From this side?
Yeah, so you take a step back. You would then fill in the trench you've made with the next load.
Gotcha.
10 out of 10.
Just be honest, be brutal. I'm
He's a
fine.
good solid 3.
If I can get a 3 for a first time, that's satisfying.
Good solid 3.
보리의 싹을 틔운 다음에는 눅눅한 보리를 건조하는 과정이 필요합니다. 이때 아일라 섬에서는 피트를 연료로 사용하는데요. 피트를 태우면 향이 강하고 진한 연기가 나는데 이 연기가 메가에 스며들면서 아일라 위스키 특유의 강한 훈제향이 만들어지는 거죠. 증류소 곳곳을 돌아다니면서 코로 피트 향을 느꼈다면 이제는 혀로 아일라 위스키를 느껴볼 차례입니다.
Maybe you could get me started on my malt boyish tasting whiskey
Okay, well,
journey.
I think what we should start on then, aged 10 years,
Okay.
sherry oak finish. So it was matured predominantly in bourbon before being finished in sherry oak. It's a very inviting dram. For me on the nose, I instantly get the Lafroig smoke. Slanger.
Sounds of that. I mean, it's smoky, but there's also this richness to it, slightly savory, and then it finishes with this high kind of grassy note. It's quite nice. It's very well balanced, very complex.
You think the peat smoke's going to overwhelm everything. It doesn't. You get that richness, you get that seaweed and the iodine, you get that brininess. They're all there bubbling away on the surface.
The characters, though, that you said, smoke, seaweed, iodine, but
Yeah.
somehow it works. It's very well balanced. Is that why the tagline for Lafroig is "Love it or hate it"? That's one of them, right? It's a
Absolutely.
very strong character, but it's very interesting.
Absolutely.
It's like take it or leave it.
It is very much love or hate.
Okay.
And when people love, they love.
Well, I love it.
Yeah.
Another sip of this right here.
위스키에 대한 그들의 자부심이 느껴집니다.
Lafroig is a little more on the traditional side. When I swung open the doors here, the interior, the smells, I guess even like the ocean is, I could almost touch it from here. And I could lean out the window and the sea would splash me in the face if the wind was right. The proximity to the elements and where it's located, I think, play a more, the root there is a little bit more deeply rooted compared to the other distilleries that we visited. And I think that plays into the characters and to the experience of coming to the distillery.
스코틀랜드의 작은 섬이 위스키의 성지로 불리는 데는 피트, 바닷바람, 섬이라는 지형과 같은 여러 요소를 잘 버무려 독특한 맛과 향으로 발전시킨 증류소들의 역할이 컸는데요. 차로 5분 거리에 놓인 이 증류소들은 서로 경쟁하며 아일라 위스키의 맛을 이어가고 있습니다. 이번에는 피트 몬스터로 불릴 만큼 아일라 위스키 중에서 피트 향이 가장 강한 위스키를 만나볼까요?
Hey!
Hi, Dustin.
Nice to meet you, Dustin. I'm Colin.
Colin, nice
Great
to
to
meet
meet you.
you.
Welcome to Ardbeg.
Thank you so much for having us.
I'm sorry, it's a bit wild and windy today.
This is beautiful.
But
I love this weather.
You're in the Hebrides, you're
Yeah.
here on the islands of Scotland, so we're literally the coast there just coming in and battering us. So
Are you going to show me around a little
yeah,
bit?
we're going to go through the distillery and then we'll go through warehouse and show you what we're doing here.
Excellent. Let's
Great,
go.
have you along. Come on, let's go.
Thank you.
피트 연기로 잘 건조시킨 메가는 가루로 분쇄한 후 매시턴이라는 큰 통에서 뜨거운 물과 섞어줍니다. 여기에 효모를 넣고 발효를 시키면 알코올 함량 10% 정도의 시큼한 액체가 만들어지는데요. 일종의 맥주라고 할 수 있는 이 액체를 증류시키면 위스키의 원액이 되는 거죠.
Over there we had the old stills.
Yeah.
Those were 120 years old, and these ones are the new ones.
Yeah, copper is a crucial thing because It's a great conductor of heat,
Yeah, obviously I'm sweating.
but it's a great conductor of heat. It's easy to shape, it's malleable.
Is this unique to the Ardbeg distillery,
You know,
the
you
shape?
see others with it, but the shape is, yeah, shape, height, absolutely unique. We've got 130 distilleries in Scotland, all have unique shape.
증류기의 크기부터 높이, 구부러진 각도, 증류기의 머리 모양까지 요소 하나하나에 따라 위스키 맛이 다 달라진다고 하니 증류소마다 다르게 생긴 증류기를 보는 재미가 있겠네요.
Okay, so we've got, with the doubling up with the stills, we've now got these, the spirit safe as well.
Wow, this is the spirit that's being distilled right now. It's coming directly out of these stills.
This is what we call a spirit safe. So we've been using these in the whisky industry for a long, long time. They're locked. That comes back. It's an old customs agreement that they have to be controlled. So you can, or I can just come in and take a sample whenever I like.
Where's the fun in distilling then?
Well, for
And they
them it's
gotta-
taxation, because they charge us a lot of money. But
And this is what ends up going into the
this is spirit. This is what we're going to put into the cask.
into the
wine.
cask. Do you have who's got the key?
I've got the key.
You've got the key.
And
There
the
was a-
secret.
자, 이제 마법이 일어나는 단계입니다. 증류액을 오크통에 넣어서 위스키의 특색을 결정짓는 숙성의 시간인데요. 어떤 오크통을 쓰느냐, 얼마나 숙성하느냐, 또 저장고는 어디에 위치하느냐에 따라서 위스키의 최종 풍미가 달라진다고 하니 네, 그 어떤 과정보다 중요한 순간입니다.
So we've got a vast array of casks in here. The vast majority of what we fill is American oak.
Yeah.
Ex-bourbon casks,
Okay.
probably about 80%. But you'll sometimes see things like this, a big sherry butt from Spain. You might see the odd old wine cask as well. So there's all sorts that we fill.
Wow. So what's the oldest barrel you have here?
The oldest barrel we've got on site just now is a 1976. It's not in this warehouse. It's hidden away. But we've got very little 1970s stock. What I could do is I can give you a nose and a taste of something. Right here we've got a 12-year-old first fill,
Yeah.
which will give you an idea of, like, with a really active cast, the colour and some of the notes you'll get.
Yeah, excellent.
Come on, let's have a look. What we do is we use a thing called a bung extractor. This will always be a wingy-wangy to me.
That sounds fun.
Couple of times.
How many
in.
times can you extract a bung?
Probably twice. And then you just, first
Ooh.
time, look at that. It's like I'd practiced that before. And then what we do is we use a thing called a valinche. You can do this if you want. Do you want to draw the sample?
Yeah.
Until you put it down until you feel the liquid liquid should be relatively high up. If it's empty, we've got a problem. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I feel it.
Right, and then put your finger on.
I've done this somewhere before.
It's all right, mate. Keep going. Let go. There you go. Look at that. It's good colour on that. So it's a 12-year-old.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Have a wee smell. I'll get a glass.
Wow, that's
This is single cask whiskey, 12 years old. Great colour to it, and hopefully lots of. I quite often get that. Cheers. Oh, are we getting a row? There's the smoke.
yeah.
But,
And it hits in the back of the throat as opposed to.
oh. Like almost like a melony sweetness coming through the
I
smoke.
was gonna say melon. But almost like watermelon as opposed to like a honeydew or a cantaloupe or something. Nothing on the muskmelon side. Wow, that's
You get this
interesting.
lovely, like earthy, like the mouthfeel. It's kind of like almost like bonfire embers. You just get that like, sort of going through, but there's sweetness to it as well. Like
It's very well balanced.
정말 부럽네요. 네. 저도 마셔보고 싶습니다. 더스틴, 이번엔 제대로 숙성된 위스키를 한번 마셔볼까요?
So these are your selections. These
Yeah.
are the ones we're gonna taste.
yeah, let's.
What are we looking at?
So one thing we wanted to do is people knew that young Ardbeg worked really well. So this one here, very young,
Yeah.
was a 6-year-old. It was done in 1998, and then we bottled it in 2004. Those smoky, citrusy, people just thought this is incredible. So we thought, let's go back to those times and let's bottle a 5-year-old.
And that's the. So we would be small.
Yeah. Wee beastie is a small beast, a small animal.
작은 짐승, 피트 괴물이라 불리는 이 위스키는 어떤 맛일까요?
Yeah,
Give it a taste. Cheers, Slanjava. Cheers.
Slanchava. see what you mean. It pops. There's that spice there, but
Spicy, sooty, but
it only kind of like takes that jab for a second and then it smooths out.
yeah, the finish is very mellow.
Yeah. The general consensus is Ardbeg is the peatiest whiskey on the market. It's a peat monster, all of them, that's the character. But this isn't, I mean, it's peaty, but this isn't like mow you over, kind of destroy you with peat.
Even though we're using very, very, very high phenolic, what we call the sort of compound or measurement of smokiness we talk about as phenol, even though that is high, the way that we run our stills and encourage reflux, lots of copper contact, you end up with this great balance where there's the smoky, sooty, bonfire ember notes, but this wonderful balance and lighter notes come through, and that is so cool. That is Ardbeg. So people look at Ardbeg and say, wow, that's going to be a peaty monster.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to it than just the smoke and the peat.
Certainly. When we think about the Islay whiskies, we only think about like peat monster. I was surprised. Ardbeg's whiskies line is very dynamic. It's been around for so long, and yet it was infused with this perfect bridge between the youthful kind of witty character, but also this upholding of tradition. When I sampled the whiskeys as well, Ardbeg it's hip, it's screamingly wild. Lefroy is love it or hate it. That was their tagline, right? Like, take it or leave it. We're going to stick to tradition, and you can see that almost immediately when you walk into the visitor center. You can see it as you walk around the distilleries themselves, and you can hear it and feel it in the way that everyone talks about their product in the crew, the team. Two distinctly different expressions of tradition in a modern world.
두 증류소 모두 훌륭한 전통을 가졌다는 건 분명합니다. 다만 전통을 표현하는 방식이 다른 거죠.
And it's a harmony. There's some sort of balance. They both uphold and uplift and push forward what they find important, and it resonates with the international community. That's why it's so well received in both expressions.
아일라 섬은 200년 전부터 위스키 증류소가 있었던 지역답게 위스키를 즐기는 아주 특별한 방법이 있다는데요. 그중 하나를 살짝 맛보러 가볼까요?
And I'm in front of a very old, very well-known hotel. This is Lucci's Bar, where I've heard they have upwards of 1,500 different single malt scotches and an extremely unique way to try them. I'm very excited. Let's give this a shot.
Welcome to Bomo Hotel. My name's Ayla. Nice to meet you.
Ayla, Dustin, like the island.
Yeah, exactly the same.
Did your parents name you that?
They did indeed, yes.
That's amazing.
They're from the islands, so all my family's from the islands. So.
This is amazing. Look at this.
Yeah, we've got nearly 1,000 bottles open, all Ayla whiskies.
1,000 bottles open.
Open, yeah, all different Ayla, only Ayla whiskies. What we do with some whiskey is pour it onto the local oysters.
Oysters.
Yeah.
굴과 위스키의 조화가 어떨지 궁금하네요.
These are local?
These are local to the island, yeah, from Cragen's farm on Loch Crunyot.
I think I might have to drink a bit more whiskey to be able to accomplish that.
The most popular one for that we use for oysters is Bowmore 12.
Bowmore 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that a very peaty whiskey, or is it very...
It's in the kind of medium peated range. You know, it's not as peaty as Ardbeg or Lefroy, but it's more peated than like Bruichladdich and Bunnahabhain.
I'm excited. Let's give this a shot.
Yeah. Everybody's got different tastes, so I'll just do what I think.
Okay. And then this just down the hatch.
Down the hatch.
This is breakfast for me. Breakfast of champions. Here we go.
Hopefully it doesn't stick.
I totally see it. You get the that ever so slight salinity in the whiskey, that kind of like sea brine, sea breeze, and then you have this brininess of the oyster. They kind of marry, they harmonize, and the whiskey it's not overly poweringly peaty, but at the same time, oysters have almost like a briny, savory note to them. That's working very well.
Yeah.
Wow, that's excellent. We'll go for one more maybe. This guy down here.
I'll maybe let you pour your own whiskey on it this time.
All right, that's it. Yeah. And a bit of spillage. That's what she said. Here we go.
Absolutely. You can see why it's so popular.
It's absolutely great. Wow, and the oysters are so creamy.
Yeah.
And then the mouthfeel of the whiskey, also the body of it, it actually worked very nicely.
Yeah. I think that's why that War 12 is the most popular one, because it doesn't overpower the taste of the.
Yeah, it's still it's like, when I talk about pairings, I'm always telling people it's not just putting two things in your mouth. They have to marry, they have to harmonize,
Exactly,
they have to dance.
Yeah.
And in order for that to work well, then you can call it a pairing. And and it's very long on the palate. The oysters and the Bowmore 12, the whiskey, they keep harmonizing and changing shape.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice. That's excellent.
Great, glad you enjoyed.
Yeah.
인생이란 이토록 단순한 것이며 이다지도 아름답게 빛나는 것이다. 소설가 무라카미 하루키가 아일라 섬에서 굴과 위스키를 먹고 남긴 표현입니다. 인생의 아름다움을 위스키 한 잔에 느낄 수 있다면 그야말로 작지만 확실한 행복이 아닐까요? 아일라 섬의 증류소들은 수백 년 동안 각자의 영역을 지키며 특별한 풍미를 발전시켜 왔는데요. 여기 무려 124년 만에 새로 태어난 증류소가 있습니다.
Standing here in front of the Kilomen distillery. To my left here is the barley field. There are about 230 acres that they have where they grow their own barley, and they follow the process all the way through to bottle, where the term barley to bottle comes from. It's these types of small batch distilleries that I live for. I'm very excited to see what type of dynamic flavors and different aromas that they have. Let's go get a taste.
보리에서 병까지라는 표현은 신생 증류소의 현명한 전략입니다. 이미 수백 년의 역사를 가진 다른 증류소들 사이에서 존재감을 드러내야 하니까요. 이곳에서는 인근의 밭에서 직접 재배한 보리를 전통 방식 그대로 플로어 몰팅을 합니다. 보리에서 병까지라는 건 200년 전 이 섬에서 위스키를 처음 만들 때처럼 위스키를 만드는 모든 과정을 외부의 도움 없이 한 증류소에서 한다는 의미인데요. 다른 증류소들이 대형화되면서 잃어버린 전통을 되살리는 작업이기도 합니다. 작은 증류소다 보니 위스키를 만드는 과정을 둘러보고 배우기에는 더없이 적합한 곳입니다.
Wow, first thing, the smells, the aroma here is it's sweet, it's caramel-like. There's something almost, there's earthy notes here. It's just filling the place. We can see over there, there's some vapors. I think they're running the still right now. You can see here that there's some vapor coming out, but the liquid itself is not boiling. So it's about sitting at, I think, 91 degrees Celsius right now. And this is where they're removing the sugars from the malt so that it can be fermented into alcohol. It smells like almost like baked bread. It's earthy as well. Something nutty about it. It's quite nice. So this goes into a fermentation chamber, into the wash still. It's fermented with yeast, and then that ferment is piped over here to the stills. Here we have the wash still, and it's beautifully bubbling. Look at that. Wow, that's nice. And this is now, whereas over there it was very bread-like, very kind of musty, earthy. Wow, that's beautiful. There's some just amazing fruity notes here. And then this is the first distillation. And it moves over here for the second distillation. That's warm. That's definitely warm. The copper is just absolutely beautiful. Dustin?
Peter, nice to meet you.
Peter, thank you for putting aside some of your time. I just finished the tour. That was just lovely.
And then this is the 100% Isla, which is made entirely from the barley from the fields here.
You have 230 acres that you're growing the barley on?
Yes, what we call single farm, single malt.
I've heard on the tour, and then I've also read this kind of like a barley to bottle. Is that?
Yeah, that was the sort of the line or the strap line my dad came up with back in sort of 2005 when it was first built.
Is that kind of the philosophy here for the distillery, because it's such a young distillery? You're on an island that's you're on all sides by these monsters that have been around since 18 whatever, and now they're run by just ginormous companies.
Yeah, when we started in 2005, we were the only independent here. The others were Diageo and Beam Suntory and Remy. It was always important for my dad from day one almost to show whiskey production can be done like this, because it was how it was done 150, 200 years ago when whiskey was first coming, to Islay. Distilleries outsourced the growing, outsourced the malting, outsourced the bottling, maybe often matured as well, not at the distillery, somewhere else. So my dad thought, well, there's a gap here in the market. There's not a distillery on Islay, barely in Scotland, doing it all themselves. So
the original way. I had extremely high expectations for Killaman. To see the new generation digging up the tradition and bringing it straight into the modern world and connecting the dots for us passionately and bringing us this glass, it's just amazing. Now I'm curious, can I take peat and use that in Nuruk to make a peated soju? Now I got to get my hands on some peat and some malt, some peated malt, to figure out if I can put a spin on traditional soju or 약주 to see if that exists. That's what I'm interested in.
피트 향을 머금은 한국 전통주. 벌써부터 기대가 되네요. 자, 더스틴, 이제 우리의 위스키 여정을 멋지게 마무리하러 한번 가볼까요?
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for having me. My name's Dustin.
Frank, how you doing? Welcome
Frank,
to the pub.
thank you so much. This is beautiful. Honestly, I swung open the door. It's a little difficult to step in here. There's so much. I mean, I thought I have about 100 selections of traditional Korean alcohol at my bar. I thought I was like...
That's nice.
Yeah, you're probably just... I can see her smirking at that, like 100. That's cute.
We have about 800 in here.
Wow.
I mean, it is also kind of an optical illusion because the bar comes out either side. So you sitting there, all you can see in your complete field of vision is whiskey. So it's a little bit kind of...
How long has this place been around?
Well, we've run the pub now for about 11 years. The pub's been the pot still for now 41 years.
Wow.
It's been a pub going back to mid to late 1800s. So as far as we know, as far as the record of who was here, it sold alcohol. It's been a pub, it's been a wine merchants, but basically as long as there's been a note, it's sold copious amounts of booze. So every year we bottle a new cask of whiskey to celebrate the anniversary of us taking over, but the one we're going to try for the 40th anniversary of the pub becoming the pot still, we bottled a 40-year-old from Portland Das Distillery.
Yeah. 40 years. Honestly, I've been around now to Islay, to Speyside. I haven't sipped on anything that's been 40 years yet.
There's not a lot of it about.
This is quite a treat, thank you.
Slanjava.
Slanjava. Wow. So with the sherry cask, I think I'm starting to get it. You get a lot of those like almond, almost like stone fruit, bruised stone fruit, those kind of amaretto-like notes to it.
There's also a difference in what you get depending on how long the whiskey's been in the cask. So if you imagine that's my hands, the stave, the whiskey gets into the pores of the wood, and the longer it spends in there, the more it gets in and the more it pulls out. So the first things that it pulls out are flavours that are quite easily alcohol soluble, and that you get sweeter notes.
There are a few moments in my life tasting spirits and alcohols from all around where I took a sip and I thought that just, in one sip, that just changed the game for me. And I just had that experience.
In that case, my work is done, right? I'll see you later.
All right, yeah. Put this in the bag. Whiskey for me, after this experience, I think I found a new love, a new appreciation, especially for Scotch, single malts, and surprisingly the blend, this kind of, this alchemy of layering the flavors and the characters and accentuating them in exactly the way that you want to have them for this unique experience, this kind of perfect sip. We're going back to Seoul. I'm gonna sit down at the bar. And yeah, I'm gonna order a peat monster, and it might be Lafroig, it might be Ardbeg, it might be something I haven't tried before, just so that I can reflect on the memories of this experience and appreciate exactly what was put into this glass to keep it, that it survived all the way to this dram. I think that's the scenario for me.